And this is a very simple amendment, couldn't be simpler. And what the amendment is about is that when taxpayers of this country and the American citizenry puts at risk trillions of dollars which go to large financial institutions, they have a right to know who is receiving that money. That's about it, not more complicated. Mr. President, earlier this year, Doug Elmendorf, the director of the Congressional Budget Office, told the Budget Committee that the Federal Reserve has committed nearly $2.3 trillion in taxpayer dollars to deal with the financial crisis. And Mr. President, you have no clue, I have no clue, and nobody in America has any clue where that money went. Who got it? Now, it seems to me that right here on the floor of the Senate, I have been involved in long, heated debates about whether we spend $20 million on this and $30 million on that. These debates go on forever. And yet, when we are prepared to place at risk through the Fed $2.3 trillion, hey, I guess the American people don't have a right to know who is getting that money. Interestingly, if you go to your computer and you go to the appropriate website, you can find out, appropriately enough, which financial institutions and other corporations have received TARP funds. I voted against those bailouts, but the truth is, if you want to know how much Citigroup has gotten, you want to know how much Bank of America has gotten, there it is. It's in black and white, as it should be. But you will not know, and you do not know, which institutions received $2.3 trillion. Earlier this month, I had an opportunity to ask Ben Bernanke, the chairman of the Fed, about this issue when he testified before the committee. At this hearing, the chairman told the Budget Committee that since the start of the financial crisis, the Fed has provided loans to, quote, hundreds and hundreds of banks, end of quote. But Mr. Bernanke declined to name any of these banks, how much assistance they provided to each bank, or what those banks are doing with this money. Mr. President, what the Federal Reserve needs to understand is that this money does not belong to them, it belongs to the American people. I mean, it is literally mind-blowing that trillions of dollars have been placed at risk. By whom, for what, going to whom, and we don't know. So I would hope that we would have strong bipartisan support for this amendment, which simply begins the process of asking for transparency at the Fed, which is probably the most secretive institution in government. Mr. President, during the markup of the budget resolution last week, I offered an amendment with Senators Bunning, Feingold, and Menendez, all of whom served with me on the Budget Committee, to create a deficit-neutral reserve fund to provide increased transparency at the Federal Reserve. Due to some concerns raised by the parliamentarian, this amendment was modified and passed the Budget Committee by a voice vote. The amendment that I'll be calling up tomorrow is more specific in terms of what type of transparency the Fed should be providing. The Sanders, Bunning, Feingold, Menendez amendment simply puts the Senate on record that the Federal Reserve should publish on its website, just like the Treasury Department does with TARP funding, comprehensive information about all of the financial assistance it has provided under the lending facilities it created to deal with the financial crisis since March 24th, 2008. And what we ask specifically is, one, and believe me, I don't think that the taxpayers of this country are asking too much when they get this information. Number one, the identity of each business, individual, or entity that the Fed has provided financial assistance to. Secondly, the type of financial assistance provided to that business, individual, or entity. Three, the value or amount of that financial assistance. Four, the date on which the financial assistance was provided. Five, the specific terms of any repayment expected. Six, the specific rationale for providing this assistance. And seven, what that business, individual, or entity is doing with this financial assistance. In addition, Mr. President, this amendment also puts the Senate on record in supporting in the support of providing the GAO with the tools and the authority it needs to conduct an independent audit of the Federal Reserve, something that I know Senator Bunning, among others, has been trying to accomplish for several years. Mr. President, this is a very simple amendment. It is a very important amendment. Anyone who believes in transparency in government should be supporting it.